Acid mine water continues to rise on the East Rand. The rising levels in the springs have now breached environmental critical levels. The treatment plant is no longer operational, leaving a tide of toxic mine water. The utility says there is no need for immediate concern. Let's find out more from water expert Anthony Turton. A very good morning to you, Anthony, and thank you so much for your time. So why would there not be immediate need for immediate concern? I mean, if the levels are going up and beyond the critical levels that they should be, surely it's something to be worried about already?
Well, I think the truth of the matter lies in the concept of the environmental critical level. So let's quickly unpack what that means and who defined that. So firstly, environmental critical level was defined by the Department of Water Affairs some years ago as being the critical level below surface, at which time the vertical upflow of water starts becoming horizontal by virtue of the fact that it now reaches other surface aquifers. So the environmental critical level is a level defined by government itself as a safe level. So for it to now start saying that it's safe to breach the very level that it defined as being safe, well, no, that speaks to the lack of clear understanding or the lack of honest discourse about the matter. So all the mine voids are going to eventually fill up, and they're going to fill up right to surface, and they're then going to decant to surface, as has been happening in the Western Basin from 18 wind sharp from about 2000 and early 2000s, I forget the exact date, 2002 I think it was, that it came to surface.
Anthony, for the ordinary citizen or the ordinary resident around in Springs, what does this mean for them? What is toxic water like this coming out of a non-operational mine mean for them?
Yes, okay. So the water itself is highly acidic. When it's highly acidic, it's got a lot of sulfate in it, sulfate, oxidized sulfur that's in the water. So basically think of it as low-grade sulfuric acid that's coming out of the water. But what it does, of course, is it flows into the Vaal River system. And the Vaal River system is becoming increasingly saline. And the Department of Water Affairs in around about 2010, 2008, around about then, did a study called the Vaal River Salinity Study. And that study found that the levels of salinity in the Vaal River were rising to unsustainably high levels. And one of the major drivers of that salinity was, in fact, acid mine water. So this has been known about at least since 2010, plus minus, give or take a year either side of that. So it's nothing new at all now. And of course, the more saline the water is, the greater becomes the cost of treating the water to potable standards. So we're simply talking about an escalation in cost over time. But we also need to understand that when your water comes out of a mine shaft, when it's highly acidic like this, it also dissolves in it a whole series of metals that are found in the same mine void. And one of those metals is uranium. And uranium itself is toxic, and it comes out in liquid form in acid mine water, more so on the western basin than on the eastern and central basin. But still, uranium is also always present, along with other metals, arsenic, cadmium, zinc, etc. Those are also present in small quantities.
Who's responsible now to make sure that this is dealt with and dealt with speedily? Is it Rand Water? Is it does it now need to come at government level? Who can do what needs to be done?
Well, it's when you talk about responsibility, it's this is very contested terrain because legally speaking, the mining houses are responsible, but the mining houses have no longer operate. They've left. So therefore, in terms of an agreement reached, called the Fani Botha Accord, an agreement was reached between the mining companies and the government some years ago, and in terms of that agreement, the liability was nationalized, effectively taken off the balance sheet of the mining companies. This is not really very well known in the public domain, but this is what actually happened. So in effect, the state is now responsible for it, whereas some activists dispute that, but nonetheless, that's what the legal position is. So now the question is, what are you going to do about it? And of course, if you leave it and do nothing about it, then it is slowly polluting our existing surface water resources. So the alternative would then be to use the technology that South Africa has developed making potable water out of that. In fact, that's being done in Malahleni, it's being done at Urgies, at the the Turton treatment plant. So we have the technology in South Africa, but it's not been implemented. And it ultimately comes down to political will and the financial investment needed in order to sustain that plant.